produce any kind of consistent pattern.
So it would be interesting to see whether the pronunciation of the same words would produce a pattern. So the question is, how was it uttered at Mount Sinai?
Difficult to tell. The nearest people say is the Yemenite pronunciation. You ever heard Yemenite's pronunciation?
No.
Reading the Torah? You can find it online. They'll have things, but the Yemenite one is probably the oldest and the most authentic of the pronunciations.
How do you envision Moses sharing the 10 utterances at Mount Sinai? How would that have, what is that experience? How was that meant to be experienced? What was what came forth? If it was the sounds, what awakened the Jewish people at Mount Sinai? What elevated them?
That the Torah keeps on reiterating that Mount Sinai was about sounds, about the shofar, about the lightning. It was about the visual, the fire and the sounds. They down below didn't hear any specific words, although it's possible that they did. But again, we don't really know what they heard. And then there's this other issue of what was on Mount Sinai. Was it just the 10 Commandments, or was it the whole of the Torah? Was it inspiration, or was it verbal? It's such a complicated, fascinating, complex issue. But the sound was supposed to be the most important thing. But what was the sound? We don't know. We can speculate. In the same way, we don't know what language God will have spoken to Moses in. Right? Moses was brought up as an Egyptian. We don't know at what stage and in what way the Hebrew language differentiated from the earlier Canaanite languages. It was influenced by Egyptian languages. So we don't know the sound. We have the letters, but again, that's also interesting because, as you know, the script has changed dramatically. The script that Moses would have engraved on the 10 Commandments was not the script we have of the Torah that the Zohar was written in. That was a Babylonian script. So going back, it's almost impossible to know. That's why it's such a vast field. Maybe this is going to be able to distill something from the research and from the patterns. We might find out something, but at this moment, if anybody says they know, they don't.
Mm. Well, to reiterate, and I have to reiterate this because I'm recording, the cymatics, the patterns of sound and the geometry of sound, which is for me the clue is in the Yud Hey Vav Hey, the Tetragrammaton, which is the flower of life, which, as I believe, contains all of the geometry of sound. And behind the sounds exists this pattern that is correlating to the name of God in its totality, in its fullest expression, which contains all of the elements of creation. And it's expressed as such. That's why there is that comparison. That's why the Yud Hey Vav Hey is the Tetragrammaton, and that's what it's doing. It's expressing a different way of understanding. So I feel it's more about pattern.
All the words that you will find in the Torah, the name of God is the one with the least sound, because it's made up almost entirely of vowels. There's no consonant there. That's why it's so impossible to know how they actually pronounced it. Yehovah, 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 Yehovah.
In the same way as white light contains all the colors of a spectrum when you project it through a prism, and light you don't see. The name of God you don't hear, but it equally contains all of the different vibrations of creation. So there's a correlation between the two. The reason why that you can't pronounce the Yud Hey Vav Hey, you can't actually, because it has no vowels, is because it is not of, we can't condense it, we can't hear it, we can't express it. It can only be expressed in everything physical. It can only be expressed through what it creates, through the effect. The cause cannot be seen. We can never get through the endless, the end stop. It can never be expressed, can never be touched. Could never be, but we know it through everything else. And it's the everything else that we're, through the process of deconstruct, that allows us to come back to the essence of what it is.
Yeah. You're going to be a rabbi one day, you know
that? my greatest, my worst nightmare.
Mine too, but prophet word of Navi is to bring a message. To bring a message. A rabbi is a hierarchical teacher. A prophet, never called rabbis, but they were the greatest spiritual leaders, and their job was lahavi, to bring something to you and be back. So you're going to be a prophet.
Thanks, Jeremy. That's well. Let's. What would be awesome is if we could both watch the videos of the gentleman, the rabbi. I keep forgetting his name.
Okay.
Stephen Fitzel. If we could watch Stephen Fisdale's videos together, and then maybe we can talk once we've had a chance to review it. I'd be interested to know his perspective, because what I watched is I only watched a small portion, and he was discussing the tree of life, and he was going to take David through a process of learning about the tree of life, and I'm going to be really curious to know what the conclusion to the conversation was. And if you're interested, maybe we can watch it together, and then we can explore it, discuss it, and then actually keep having I think there's a lot of questions that we should I mean, there's lots of questions. Today was just a kind of just to say hi, just give you a little update, and to just let you know that I'm sharing the conversations that we've had, and to make sure you're okay with it, and then to really build the community around Soul Lingua. Okay. And then maybe we can speak next week if you had a chance to watch maybe one or two of the videos, and that'd be great.
Good to see you.
You too. Big love. Speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.